This is, yes, Porto Hostel, my home for the next 2 or 3 nights. There's a walking tour from here at 3:30. I just got here about 45 minutes ago, checked in. Now I'll take a walk around the block and start to learn a little bit more about where I am. My hostel's in the old section called the Baixa of Porto, Portugal. And these tall buildings, at least as to an old town, characterize it. What we'll be looking at throughout Portugal is the tile work that you see here, and various versions. It's known for its tile work. And this is not some tacky Home Depot type of nouveau thing. It is what has characterized this kind of art for several centuries. And here's some more, but notice this is a prosthetic, apparently. Hospital type of gear. Apparently tradition does not require that you replace the old with the exact same. Laundry trying to dry in the rain, and some other different colored tile there. I try to walk around blocks in larger and larger circles, particularly when I've taken a cab there and have no clue where I'm at, since I didn't walk from the bus station. My hostel on my little walk should be just to my right, so I'll just pan around here back in the direction I've just come from. A park over there that we'll explore a little later. This fairly large square, and that may be the Clarios Tower, but I don't think so. Clarigos. This building used to be a prison, and now is a museum of photography. There are probably some classical buildings, fronts at least. How much of an attempt is made to preserve the old look while the inside's gutted and redone, I don't know. No, it's not the Clarios Tower, because there it is. And to the right, down the street, should be my hostel. What I'm discovering is a grocery store near. This is a tart-like little thing I picked up from Pandaria. A little bit of chocolate in it. Tastes a little bit like flan. Has a little bit of a chewy crust. This is one of the 3 most beautiful bookstores, and of the 3, one in Maastricht, Netherlands, and the other in, I don't remember where he said, but this one was built as a bookstore, and it is magnificent on the inside. Magnificent staircase. Nor is the square of the Lions, because of this water feature here, which is on the grounds of the University of Porto. The original university was this, what's considered a large building, and at the time probably was. Some detail on top of this building while a guy sits over there begging for money with a plastic cup that he annoys the hell out of us with by banging on, by shaking up and down. Here we are at the Harry Potter bookstore. It's called that because I think we've just finished the walking tour. I'm going to take some shots here and talk a little bit about it, and then start wandering the streets. Even it's raining, so there's not much else to do. There used to be a bridge where you see these 2 pylons. At a point in time, these 2 pylons were built, and then 2 companion ones were built across, and there was a small bridge. And people used that. They built it as almost a community effort from both sides of the river, and the government, main government, took that as a challenge to their authority and their ability to build. So they then built this huge metal bridge, and what they discovered was that people were using the small bridge and never using this one because they charged for this one. So the government, in typical fashion, destroyed the small bridge, leaving only this as the option, and it was paid for in 1960. This is a picture of that first bridge These are the pylons that we looked at. These are no longer here, and this was the bridge that was ultimately destroyed when the second bridge was put in next to it. Here is a picture of the bridge before the dictator tore it down to force people to use the new metal one. Where you see that strange looking piece of steel or iron sticking out from the wall, there's a companion one across there. For a number of centuries there were several bridges here, several because they had to be replaced. They were made from boats that were tied together with planks in between. Kind of like what the military uses, only far, far from stable. And so any time that there was any kind of flooding of water, they'd get destroyed and have to be rebuilt. In fact, at one time, a tragedy occurred when the French were attacking for the second time, and 4,000 people died between where you and I are looking now. That's a lithograph of what the early bridges would have looked like, made out of barrels. Or, I mean, boats, excuse me. This plaque apparently portrays the coming of the French and the bridge that broke, and that's probably what we can see right in there is where it's broken. And apparently people kept trying to get from this side to the other side. This was what caused the problem. Too much weight, too much swinging of the bridge with the people walking. When the bridge broke, the people behind kept pushing forward like lemmings and pushing others into the water, who then were so combobulated with the spaghetti-like mass of humans they couldn't swim, and that's where the 4,000 died. The bronze plate set in 1897 in memory of the deceased in the Ponte Barcas tragedy happened on 29 March 1809 when the bridge collapsed under the weight of the people fleeing from the French troops of Soult. These boats are either replicas or restored versions of the boats that used to be used for bringing the wine down from Douro Valley, 100 and some odd miles away, to storage where they're currently stored in large buildings up there for, I guess, the aging process. And then once a year they have a regatta of many of these boats to illustrate once again what the pageantry would have been, what then was a necessary pageantry. On the wall to the other side of this entryway is a small sign that says Shia 1962. That word means flood, and that was the height of the flood waters in 1962. Apparently in 1809 or 1909 it was even some centimeters higher than that. The main restaurant tourist area that we just came down, and the street that would take me directly back up to where my hostel is, more or less. I'm going to take this route here and see if it doesn't lead me into the interior. Well, so far good. Here a narrow stairway takes us up parallel to that street that goes up to my hostel. So I'm now climbing up through what's called the Ribeira area. It's a very steep area that takes us from the riverside up to Baixa. This will give you an idea of the old look of this town. It's kind of fun. And I think apparently because of the high price of property in this area, and apparently permits or whatever they're called, giving people cheap but better housing on the outskirts of the main part of town. Many of these places are not restored and have been abandoned, but apparently there's a shift in the wave in the opposite direction, so who knows what the future holds. I'm now standing in the Largo de Padre Americo. And that's the name of the town that's across the river, where the wine is stored in those huge warehouses. I find myself blocked, so I'll go up these stairs. This is music coming from, I think, somebody's apartment. This is one of the places on the other side of the river where you can visit the storage facility and taste wine. Other places over there too, but apparently the range is a little bit more complicated. And still I keep climbing almost to the level, the high level of that bridge we saw. So here I'll go through this arch at Escalas do Barreiro to where those people are with bed. So I'm at the top here in Rua de Hugo. What looks like an old church or something like that. But we'll continue down this street, more or less on the level towards the bridge. I'm guessing we'll find that this black was formerly actually an image. I guess again it's just a building that was painted with black tar, it looks like. It's melting and deteriorating off. You can see pieces of it lying on the ground. And the bridge is over there, so I'll pan around this first. I'm going to take a closer look at that building there and its tile work in a minute with the telephone. Notice the churches, which there is a great number apparently here in Porto. Including what may be to our left. This would probably be called Romanesque. Notice the very much vault-like arches as opposed to the pointy Gothic ones, and these turret-like towers of the churches, but also what looks like to me a Muslim effect of those onion-shaped towers at the top. While I'm here, this tile work. Imagine that those tiles were individually made, of course. Just the organizational skill to do that would seem impressive. Just within this view, I see what look like 1, 2, 3, 4 churches. And this is apparently part of a medieval enclosure of the city built in the 11th and the 12th century around this cathedral hill with 3 gates and narrow entrance, probably built on the foundations of an ancient Goth defense. Here's some more of that enclosure. It doesn't look that imposing, but then either it wasn't or the city fathers didn't feel compelled to restore it to such a degree. Across there is a former monastery. This is the church that remains of the monastery. The balance turned into a military facility, probably by one of the dictators. And the guide indicates that he thinks this is probably around because they had to try to distinguish themselves. But it is novel to see a church like those beautiful purple vine plants cover everything underneath itself. Things we can't even imagine what they are. Some are walls, some may be former structures, some are parts of perhaps existing buildings. Here we can see another 2, maybe even 3 bridges, in addition to one we're standing on, of the 6 bridges that cross between the 2 cities. A pretty simple little building. Okay, I'm now standing above that town on the opposite side. Brick Steve says it's not worth going down into Calum, so I'm not going to bother, but it's over there that the large wine storage facilities are. I'll pan across the view. In the distance is the compressed cement bridge that was built in the 1950s, apparently attracting a large number of world-class architects at its inauguration to watch it fall in to the river. When it didn't, and when it proved itself to be not only stable, but an excellent design, it received all kinds of international awards and has now become a monument, if you will, of the city. And there's Porto. Down below there where that yellow building is, just about in the center, is the center, I think, of that river area. Not really as large as I thought it might be. And then the street going back up there takes us up to that Clerigo, or whatever it is, tower, and I'm right to the left, a block away from that. And that, I think, are the towers, maybe, of the church I looked at a few moments ago. We took some video of the tile work in the front. And there, of course, the classic barrel hauling boats. And I'll take a closer look at this bridge. There's some more of those wine barrel toting boats of the past. Inland on the river is this portion of Porto, and you'll notice along the side not only steps, God, I hate to climb those, although I almost frankly just did, but I think that's where the electric railway goes. That might be fun to take just for the novelty of it. Just looking at this structure, I wonder what those Gothic-like little arch windows are for on that portion of that old building. Some wall tile. I'm always intrigued by the ratty old buildings like these, because to me they're like a window into the past if you could just mentally get past the grime. Methinks I'm going to have to go down and then go up to get to my hostel anyway from where I'm at, so I think I'll wander down and get a closer look at that tile work on this church, and then walk at an angle using the tower as my guide back up to where I'm supposed to be. This is a busy intersection. I don't know if you call it a square or not. There's some impressive type buildings. And some of these older buildings, like this blue and well kept, and the yellow one also, and the rest down the street seem quite nice. So this building I looked at closely yesterday. This is Pedro Square. And it's Pedro the IV, King of Portugal, who came back and conquered, Portugal, and conquered Portugal from his brother, who turned it into a nationalist dictatorship akin to Mussolini and Hitler and others. Now, when Pedro IV died, he had two wishes of the city. First, that his body be returned to Brazil, where he was also the king before he became king here. and that his heart be given to this city. And this plaque on his statue represents the military handing over the heart to the city. It's now ensconced in a nearby church, logical place for requiem. Here's some very pretty tile work on this shop as a marketing device or display device, if you will, for the china and so forth that it has. So I'll pan through this section here fairly quickly just so we can see it, because we're going to see a lot more in that today. You can well imagine these as equivalents to pictures or photos that other cultures put on their walls, interior and exterior, although not normally on the exterior. Here I better get this square while I can in the sun. Park art. This is a man selling newspapers in the old days. You could speak the language and read it. We might actually know what he was selling that. If we spoke the language, we'd know because it's on the front page.